And there we go. And you should have screen share now.
Yes, thank you. All right, well, before we begin, I just want to say I'm so excited to be here today. And yes, I just got done teaching all day. So I'm exhausted, but I'm really excited to be here. My students just left literally 5 minutes ago. And so I jumped on here and I am as ready as I'm going to be with all of you. And let me go ahead and share my screen so I can tell you a little about myself. I'm going to go ahead and share the sound, and I'm going to sound like an educator here. Give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. You can see it. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in presenter mode here. Oh, hold on. Let me just see if I can move over. All right. Can you see that now? Okay. Perfect. All right, so to get to the presentation today, I did just make a short bit.ly. We use Google here. We're a Google school. And so it's just easier instead of having you put that long URL in there. Here's the bit.ly to get there. So it's bit.ly/November CC22. Is short in November, and then CC is for copyright and creativity. That's our main focus today, is just sharing our resources with all of you. I did put that short bit.ly on there multiple times for you as well. If it's not working for you, I'm happy to, in the chat, put the URL to the presentation today. I'll go ahead and just drop it in the chat as well if you just want to go ahead and, oh, Wendy already did that, the direct link to it. So just a little bit about myself. I'm an elementary librarian. I teach K-6. I'm in the North Penn School District at North Wales Elementary in Pennsylvania. I'm the Pennsylvania Ambassador for Copyright and Creativity for Ethical Digital Citizens. I put my Twitter there, my school Twitter, my school Facebook. I love followers. I also love following other educators. I try staying on Twitter. It's kind of a hobby of mine. I just wore a shirt the other day to school that says my hobby is scrolling for hours after my children go to bed, because I just love being, staying up and pivoting with the new things that are coming out and ideas, and gathering ideas from all of you and other educators that are out there, and seeing what is going on with others and everything. So again, please feel free to follow me. I would love that. And then that way I can follow you back. If you have any questions about today, about the presentation, about our resources, I do have an email address on there. It's jen@copyrightandcreativity.org. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. I love hearing from all of you and any questions you may have or comments. And then there's my library website. I am a librarian, so there's my website. Check it out. You can see what my library looks like, what my space looks like. What have I been doing all day today? You can take a look at that and so forth. And then here's just a table of contents of just some things that we're going to go over today. The basics of copyright, why teach it, the overview of the curriculum and resources we have, helping teachers understand it, professional development, and other resources that can help you guide through this copyright maze. Hopefully by the end of today, won't be so much of a copyright maze for all of you. And today is just a brief introduction. The nice thing about copyright and creativity is that we do have lots of different presentations. And so this one is just the basic overview presentation. So the first thing is just copyright basics. What rights do creators have when it comes to copyright? So just having an understanding of when you make an original work, you decide who can make the copies, the derivatives, distribute those copies, display or perform the work in public, display the work, publicly perform the work, digitally perform the sound recordings of those as well. I think it's important to understand that. I know that a lot of our students get a little confused on that, especially when I go into the resources and we talk about that in the lessons, which I will talk about a little bit about my students' reactions to the lessons. And they're like, wait, what? I get to decide all these things? And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get into it. And then just talking about fair use, which is important. So there's a 4-factor test of fair use. So it is important to know that all 4 factors need to be considered when determining fair use. So fair use is using copyrighted works without seeking the permission from the publisher. There's a short video in there about transformative work. And so the 4 factors of fair use is, one of them is the effect on the market. So how does what you're using have impact on the market? The purpose of how you're using that work and the character of your use, the amount and substance. So how much of that work are you using? Sorry, I have to move the bar. And then the nature of the original. So how much of the original are you using? And then, of course, copyright has some limitations to it. Some things to remember are that copyright doesn't cover everything. You know, sometimes there's like that gray area. And copyright, since it doesn't cover everything, there are some things that are not covered by copyright. So, for example, facts and ideas are not covered by copyright. Non-creative lists such as map information, phone lists. Remember when you used to get like that big yellow phone book? Maybe some of you still get that in your town, but that big yellow phone book, that's not copyrighted. Government documents, including certain websites, videos, and the amazing NASA photos, those are not copyrighted, which is awesome because we can use those in our classrooms. And then eventually copyright does expire. It's very confusing, and I'm going to read it directly to you. So in the United States, this includes creative work published more than 95 years ago. So for works created during the last 95 years, but before 1978, copyright status is more complicated and depends on whether copyright holders took the proper steps to register and renew their copyrights. For works created since 1978, copyright protection is basically automatic and will not expire for many years. I know that was a lot, but I had to read that verbatim because that is exactly what it says. And then alternatively, some works may be okay to use depending on their licensing, which is what we're looking at right now. We have our public domain, which is what I was just talking about right there, which copyright does expire. And in the education world, sometimes we do get some reading that some works of literature that do expire and go into the public domain, and teachers like, ooh, great, now I can make all these PDF copies of it and distribute it out to my students and read it. And then we also have Creative Commons, which we are going to talk about a little bit more. And this is the licensing system allowing creators to give others permission to use their work. So maybe you create something really awesome and you want to share it, but you want to have limitations on what people can do with it. So you're like, I want to share this awesome work, but I don't want to see it on a bulletin board somewhere. I don't want people selling it to make money. I want to reap the benefits of what I created. And so that Creative Commons license will allow you to do that. You can use as much as you want as long as you follow the terms. So as the person, excuse me, as the person who wants to use the work, you can use it as long as you follow those terms. And some people don't realize that there are different Creative Commons licenses, and I'm going to show you a website where you can look at the different Creative Commons licenses and how I use that in my classroom for my students when they're using their projects. There's a video on here which basically talks to that I use in lesson 4 for my students, and it just talks about, you know, how, you know, if I want to use a piece of work, where do I have to go? What do I have to do? Well, you can't just take whatever you want and use it. You can't just Google it. That is the one thing that I know a lot of students do. You know, they just want to Google everything. Yeah, Googling the weather is great. I just Googled the weather this morning. We asked Alexa, what was the weather today? And by the way, it's very, very cold in Pennsylvania. And so, you know, that is okay. But when we can't just Google images and Google audio and think we can just use it for our projects. And then the video goes into more about websites and, well, where can we go, and talks about public domain versus Creative Commons. So this is a really great video to share with your students, which is in our resources. So why is it important to teach copyright? So I kind of explained a little bit what copyright was, and then we go into, well, why should I teach copyright? I have all these things that I should be teaching, all these resources that I have. Why should I be teaching about copyright? Well, understanding copyright is a basic life skill anymore. We're all creators and publishers. A couple of years ago, these students were not one-to-one, and now they are, especially during the pandemic. My children were coming home with Chromebooks, and every day they're coming home with their Chromebook, and I mean, at the young age of 1 or 2, they have iPads in their hands now. And if you go out to a restaurant, if you look around, what are most children doing? They're on their parents' devices, and they're consumers. And this is the critical component of digital literacy now. And so standard groups also say kids need to learn about copyright concepts and what can they do with all the information that they're getting. We have our AASL, we have our ITSE standards in there. Copyright promotes artistic creativity and the free circulation of ideas. The one nice thing is that we don't want to dwell on the negativity, okay? When we talk about copyright, I don't want you to be like, oh, copyright. Like, I don't want you to think that. I know that there is some negative aspects of it. Of course there is. It has to be that way. But I want you to think positively, but also understand that not understanding copyright can get an organization or district in real trouble. Here's just one example. Texas School District ordered to pay $9.2 million in a copyright suit. To kind of sum up the article, which I did link it there if you want to click on it and read it on your own. The school principal was taking a test pamphlet and he was just duplicating it and handing it out to his students. A teacher spoke up and said that was not, okay to do. And he said, just kind of laughed about it, shrugged it off, and continued doing it. And unfortunately, the repercussions of that was the district ended up paying $9.2 million in a copyright lawsuit. They even went to so far as just like thinking they were just going to cut the bottom of the name of the company who created it, and was like, well, we just cut the name of the bottom, like it would make it better. Like, no. So again, just, saying that you didn't know or you didn't understand, that's not going to get you out of, trouble. So now we come on to the copyright and creativity, resources. Now we kind of have a basic understanding of our why and, why did this all come together? So we have the free K-12 resources. This is the really neat part, is that these resources are funded by a grant, and the hands-on training that like what I'm doing right now is funded by a grant. But even if the grant goes away, I go away, but these resources are still going to be there. They don't go away. The other nice part is that during the pandemic, as an educator, all these resources were free. And then all of a sudden, like I go to use them and they're like, oh, now it pays. You have to pay money to use them. And I'm finding like these barriers of like, do I want to pay the money, or do I just not want to use this resource now? This is not the case for this. These are always going to be free. You don't have to worry about paying for them. And yeah, so just wanting to let you know that. The other neat part about our resources that we were named the best digital tool for teaching and learning from AASL during the pandemic from 2021. So that was a really neat shout out. We didn't even know that we were in the running. All of a sudden we were on their website and we were like, this is awesome. That's why I put my Bitmoji, like, super awesome. So that was really exciting. And then overall, our essential question is, how does copyright and fair use work together to encourage creativity? And that's what we're looking for. Like, we want to empower students and educators and teachers. Like, how are we working together to encourage creativity throughout everywhere, but doing it ethically? And so on our website, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute, we have everything broken up from elementary, middle school, high school, and then we even have professional development for teachers and staff members. And we even have past webinars that we've done that you could look at and see the different ones that we have completed before. So why did I choose copyright and creativity? Well, when I was looking at talking about copyright, I really did not find a lot. That was the hard part for me. I kept finding that everything was for older students. I kept finding things that were for like 4th and 5th and 6th graders. And as a lot of us know, like you have to build that foundation at a young age. And I wanted to find something that was more for like kindergarten and 1st graders. And like, I just could not find anything. And the best part about it was that they had everything starting in kindergarten, like preschool, kindergarten, all the way up through 12th grade. And even you can use this in college. The videos were informative. They were relatable. They're cute. I say cute and adorable because I teach elementary. That's not a word you would use in middle school and high school, of course. They're higher level of thinking. The lessons are ready to go. They're easy to follow. The key components are included. They came in different formats. But the number one thing that got to me was that it was a positive message. I find myself to be a positive person. I want my students to be influenced. I don't want it to be another lesson of what not to do. I feel like sometimes they go into, certain topics that we teach. Sometimes it's more of like what you're not allowed to do. And when I was reading these lessons, I found that they were what they can do and what they were allowed to do. And the fact that they're the creators. And it was like, well, what can you do with your work? And then the other part was the newsletters. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you one of our lessons from the website. So actually, hold on. If I go to the next page, so let's take a look at the curriculum. So with the ready to go slides, the videos, the PDF of the lessons, and the supplemental materials. And so if everybody wants to, if you have a laptop with you, great. If not, you can just follow along with me. That's perfectly fine as well. But if you go to copywritingcreativity.org, after a couple clicks and everything, you're going to notice that it's going to ask you to register. That's just to make sure that we can keep data on our grant, just to see of how many people are using our resources. It is just going to ask you for your name and then your email address and then ask if you're an educator or not. We will not inundate you with emails. I can promise you that. You might get one email every 2 months, maybe once a month. It usually just gives you like an update of like a new webinar that we have, or maybe we have a new presentation coming out, or there's like new information being pushed out about copyright that we would like to share with you. So if you want to go to the website, I'll give you like another maybe 10-15 seconds to get there. You can scan the QR code if you want. You can go to the bit.ly if you're not already there, or you can just go to copywritingcreativity.org. Lots of options to choose from to get there. All right, so when you are there, we have our resources here. We have our about, like who we are. Then we have our why are we teaching copyright? You can read over that if you'd like to. And then this is the main part of our website, the resources, which, as I was explaining to you, it's broken up into elementary, middle school, high school, professional development. This was one of our biggest clicks during the distance learning, during virtual learning, the pandemic, hybrid learning, blended learning, whatever your district was calling it during that time. There's lots of different wording. And then we have office hours and non-CNC. And I'm going to go over each of those today. But the first one I'm going to look at is just the elementary curriculum. That's what I'm most familiar with because of teaching elementary. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of the middle school. The elementary curriculum, it just explains what that is. If you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see over here on the left-hand side, the PDF. So if you click on any of the PDFs, it's going to open up into something that looks like this. The nice part about the PDF is it is completely ready to go for you. You have your purpose, your objectives, it has what grade it's for, how much time it requires for you to teach it, what you need to prepare for it, the materials you need, the notes to presenter, like where possible, you can download the videos and the slides rather than stream it directly from YouTube, or consider doing the optional pre-lesson discussion before you teach the lesson. It tells you exactly what you need and what you need to consider. Then you can have a pre-lesson discussion. You can do a character sketch. You have options of how you want to teach it. You can do option 1 or option 2. What questions you should be asking your students. What their possible answers could be back to you. The actual lesson. It has the video summary, the wrap up, the extension wrap up. And then down here is the Creative Commons attribution. So we're just asking, you can modify this lesson as much as you'd like, as long as you give attribution to copyright and creativity. So the really nice part is that when I get to this part in my lesson planning, I just print this out and I'm ready to go for the week. It's not, this is like maybe my favorite part of the month, because I don't have to worry about prepping my lessons, because there it is and it's ready to go. Then if you click on any of the slides, which I clicked on the second grade slides, and I'm going to show you why. Because the nice part about it is that if you go down to the videos, before it takes you to the lesson for that second grade, it's going to give you a video review. So it gives you the video review of kindergarten and first grade. So what you can do really quickly is like go back and show the kindergarten video, which is usually like 30 seconds to a minute. All of our videos are short and sweet, and just refresh their memory of like, remember in kindergarten? They're like, oh yeah, there's Carl. Oh yeah, that's in first grade. Like just refreshing their memory of what they learned so that you can build on it. And that's the nice part. All of our lessons build on each other. So you can use them as a single lesson, which is fine. But the nice part is that you can use them to build on each other. The other really nice feature that I like is that everything in the PDF is in the Google slide. The videos, the wording. So when you get to the older lessons, and sometimes people are a little hesitant about teaching copyright because they're like, I'm not really too familiar. I don't want to say the wrong thing. The nice part is that all of the verbiage is in there. And so if you maybe want to teach it and stick to the script, you can do that. And I'm very honest with my students, especially my 5th and 6th graders. When I first started teaching this about 3 years ago, I said to them, this is a new topic for me. I'm going to learn as you learn. And so I'm not going to have all the answers for you, because I don't really know all the answers either. And so I really stuck to the script of what was written down here in the speaker notes, and we learned together, and they were like, okay, no problem. And they were very open to that, because we have that kind of relationship and rapport with each other. And then again, they're very short and sweet. So then after the video, it's like, okay, let's talk. How can you share? Will you share? This was talking about, she had a picture that she wanted to put on a t-shirt, and then the key words that go with the lesson, and then wrapping it up. And then again, here's the attribution. But the nice part is here's the newsletter. So you can even send this newsletter home, just put your name on it. We're letting you just put your name on it. We're allowing you, okay? Put your name on it, as long as you give us credit, which our name is right there on it as well. Put your name on it, send it home, and let the grown-ups at home know what you have been teaching, and let them know that you are teaching these topics. So that is the elementary lessons. And again, the elementary lessons build on each other. You can just teach directly from the website if you'd like. They're all right here, as you can see right here on the right-hand side. They're very simple and easy. I'm just going to go ahead and just show you one of the videos. We can look at one of these here. I'll go into the slide. It's easier to show them from the slide, in my opinion. That's how I use them in the classroom. I'll go ahead and show you one of these. All right, so as you saw, okay, it didn't tell you what was going on in that video, but a lot of the students were like, oh, did you see that, Mrs. Roth? Like, that was not okay. That was not very nice of him. And like, well, he didn't even make that. And like all the little kindergarten and first graders, like they're talking about it, and and they know what's going on. And like, that wasn't right. That was wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that. How would you feel if someone did that to you? And well, well, that was important, right? Like, well, what did he do? And the one thing about that lesson is it's called respect the person. And the one thing about that lesson that I start with is I actually have my students draw a picture. We usually read a story, and how I incorporate this in libraries, we usually read a story and I have them draw a picture of the setting or their favorite part of the story. And I have them hand their papers in. And what happens is they forget to put their name on their paper, right? Because they're little kids and they forget. And then what I do is underneath my camera, I show them on the board, like, oh, look at this paper. And I start saying the wrong student's name. If they didn't put their name on their paper, I just start randomly saying kid's name. And they're like, wait, no, that's my paper. No, that's my paper. That's my paper. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. It's not a big deal. No worries. And they're like, no, but that was my paper. And you said that it was Cecilia's paper. And that wasn't Cecilia's paper. And I'm like, it's no big deal. And they kind of start panicking a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, well, why are you so upset about it? Like, you know, they're like, because it was my paper and you said it was so-and-so's paper and that wasn't very nice. And we just talk about, okay, well, that's how you were feeling. Well, what's the most important thing? It's about taking ownership of what you've created. So in the younger lessons, we don't use the word copyright until we get to 3rd grade. So even though we're talking about copyright, we're talking about ownership and respecting each other's work, we don't actually use the word copyright, because if in library class, copyright is a C in a circle in a book. It's when the book's birthday is. And so we want to make like those terms, but we want to, again, build that foundation. And so it's really funny because the kindergarten teachers are like, oh, I know when you did that lesson, because like none of them forget to put their name on their paper after that, like in the classroom. And so again, it's just these lessons build upon each other. So if we move to the middle school, all right, so if I go to the middle school ones, these are set up just a little differently. So the middle school ones, because of the fact, depending on how much knowledge your students have or where you are, the middle school lessons are set up to be used for maybe a research project, or you can integrate them with something, you know, with whatever you're using them for. So with the middle school lessons, I usually integrate them more, again, with a research project. So one of them is like Creativity Online World, our roles as creators and consumers. So students identify and understand their roles as creators and consumers online. And I use this for when we're doing research projects and they're trying to figure out, you know, I tell them, you know, okay, well, now we're going to get to the part we've done our research and now we want to put the images in and, you know, I'm like, well, where do you get images? And of course I say Google, and I'm like, well, not really. I mean, we can, but you know, and I show them in Google, like it said, you know, do you have, you know, you may use these images as long as you have the license. And I'm like, do you have the license to use this? They're like, I don't know, do I? And I'm like, I don't know, do you? And they're like, I don't think so. And I'm like, I don't think so either. And they're like, well, where can I go? And then I show this video and they're like, well, where do we go? And they kind of like start panicking a little bit. They're like, well, wait, if we can't just pick whatever we want off the internet, well, where can we go? And I'm like, the next library class, we're going to talk about that. And then that's when like they start talking, and and the next library class, that's where this video comes in and it talks to them about, again, the public domain, the Creative Commons, and the websites of where they can go to get the images for them to use for educational purposes, because that's where fair use comes in. But then they also have to think about, well, before you talk about fair use, when you're done with your project, where else are you going to be sharing your project? Do you want it to just stay at school, or are you planning on like being a blogger and using this podcast for something bigger and better, you know, or is it just for education? And so it just really opens their mind to a little bit more. And so the middle school ones, if you click on it, so if you wanted to do lesson 1, which it explains what it is, if you click on it, it will open it up to the lesson. Here's the PDF, the slides, and then the Google Drive will give you everything directly into it that you can download. And then down here are video clips that you can choose which ones you would rather use for your students. And then it tells you what time frame you have right here, like without credits, you know, depending on how much time you have for a class, because usually in middle school is set up of a flexible schedule. You don't have them on a regular basis. That's usually how a middle school schedule is set up, or you have them for a set time, but you don't have them all year round. And so that's why these are set up the way that they are. And then the high school ones are set up the exact same way. So if you scroll down, Again, you might see some repeated, but they're set up in lesson A, B, and C. So if you click on one of them, you're going to scroll down and you're going to see the exact same thing. So I just want to explain that that's why they're set up just a little differently. So you can kind of pick and choose of how you want to use them. And then again, what are your students' interests? So that you can choose the video. Again, you want to make that connection with students of what are the students' interests? Okay, and what are you looking for? So I'm going to go back to the slideshow here. I pretty much talked about the respect the person lesson for kindergarten and first grade. I talked about aligning with the project or doing it as a standalone. Students learn creating new content using other work. Students learn about the fair use, the public domain, using it for permission. And then also just expanding it. So it's not just like, oh, I taught this, I'm moving on. But like sometimes I'll say to them, you know, you have 5 minutes to draw your favorite part of a story. Okay, not every library class, but like sometimes we'll do something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, who's your creator of this drawing? And they're like, I am. Okay, who gets to say, you know, who gets to make a copy of your picture? I do. You know, if somebody wants to put it on a t-shirt, you know, who gets to say that gets to happen? I do. You know, like just again, letting them know that you're the creator. You know, you get to make those decisions because that is important for them to know. Again, they're not just consumers, but they're the creators as well. And I feel like that's a piece that we're missing sometimes, that we tell them to make all these really great pieces of work. You know, they're making flip grids. They're making, I can't even tell you, like amazing pieces of work that my students are making, and they just sit there and they're like, but I don't, you know, they just give them away, or they just sit there. And I'm like, but you're the creator. You can do so many amazing things with them. And they're like, but I don't know. But you get to be in control of who gets to do what with your piece of work. You get to be in control of that. So that's just really neat. And then here is, so a movement activity, you know, because in elementary, we got to move and groove somewhere. I do a lot of movement activities. Here's just one from one of the lessons of like, can you sing it to a friend? Yes or no? Stand up, sit down. Let your friend listen to it on your device. Yes or no? Is that okay? Use email or instant messaging to send a copy of a song to your friend. Yes or no? Tell your friend to check it out on Pandora. Yes or no? Add it to a Spotify playlist, then share the play with your friend. Post a review that includes an excerpt of the lyrics. Explain the lyrics, yes or no? Copy and paste the full lyrics onto your blog or your website. Link to the singer's YouTube channel, like yes or no. So then I try doing like copyright questions and they have to do yes or no. That's just a movement activity for my older students. They really like that. I don't want you to play. Hold on 1 second. Oh no, I can't get it to stop. Hold on. I think it's.
Do you love texting?
Oh, it's the bottom one. That's why. Sorry. I was clicking on the wrong one. Did it stop? There we go. Okay. So here's the secondary one. These are lessons from an ambassador, our secondary ambassador. She said she would be more than happy to share with all of you. I can't really speak about them though, because they're not my lesson. But she said that any of the secondary lessons could be used alone. However, the benefits to students increases when they're aligned with authentic projects, which I 100% agree. So she aligned these with the project. So she did a podcasting Nearpod lesson. Students create podcasts and learn about their rights as creators and using music in their own creations. She aligned it with our copyright and creativity lesson. This one, if you click on the link there, it will send you to that lesson. But this is her lesson that she did. She shared it, which was so kind of her. And then the bottom was a graphic design challenge that she did with her students from grades 6 through 9. And this one went along with our creativity in the online world lesson. So if you want to check out those secondary lessons that she did, she says she's more than welcome. She shared them with us. And so she's more than welcome for you to check them out and take them and, you know, modify them as you would like to modify them for any of you. And then here's just some student reactions. So one thing that I love to do is I love to reflect on how the lessons went. And that's one thing I feel as an educator is just, important to do, obviously, reflect on how things are going. And so, the first one was respect the person about, that video we watched with Carl and Tim. I'm never forgetting to put my name on my paper again. That was a cute little kindergartner. Another one was, it'd be cool if my friend took the picture I drew, put it on my t-shirt, but only if they told everyone it was my picture. I would be mad if someone took the picture I made and did something with it without asking me first. And then here's my older students. This one really kind of shocked me. Like, I didn't realize I had so much power over everything I created. I really like the fact that I can create anything I want and people have to ask my permission to use it or share it with others. Of course, the sixth grader said that. You ever worked with older students? Of course they said that. Doesn't this mean teachers should be asking me to use my creative work on their website or with the class? That was a great discussion starter. If almost everything is covered by copyright, well, then what are we allowed to use? And of course, that went on to the next lesson or the next library class. So those were my students' reactions, which was really neat to see. So this is just talking about, helping teachers navigate the maze using copyrighted works in school, specific exceptions for in-class teaching. It's okay to display or perform copyrighted work in class if it's face-to-face instruction. Again, in your classroom, nonprofit educational institution, the copy the teacher is using was lawfully obtained. Using copyrighted works in school, making sure it falls under that 4-factor test. There is a lot of what if sometimes. I don't have all the legal answers. I tell my teachers that all the time, but I do the best that I can. And I look for alternatives sometimes. I'm like, I'm not really sure if this falls under fair use. So how about we just try to navigate and pivot and do something else instead? And then using copyrighted works in school. Again, I talk about the Creative Commons, public domain, maybe library, school, or state subscriptions. I mean, sometimes your school subscribes to things that you could use instead. And that's, the librarian is the best one to reach out to if you're looking for things. They're a great resource to reach out to. And then here's professional development. So if you're looking to expand your knowledge on copyright, we have a great professional development workshop that you can do on your own. It is completely self-paced. I did take it. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to do on your own. It is on Canvas. You can, if you don't have Canvas, that's okay. It's completely free. Once you complete Canvas, the workshop, you can get this really cool copyright ethics certified badge. I know some people are really driven by badges lately and putting them on their emails. I know that I may be one of those people, and so I do like badges. They're pretty neat. They're kind of like stickers when you're in like elementary school. I still think stickers are pretty cool. And so so once you finish that Canvas, if you're in a Ludo school or you have a Ludo, some districts thrive on a Ludo. You can do that. If not, that's fine. Our district is not in a Ludo district or anything or associated with the Ludo. But on our website here underneath resources, if you go to professional development, I also linked it right here. If you just click on any of these, it will take you directly to the professional development page. There's a video here. She's explaining to you our professional development for educators, staff, or anybody really who wants to learn more about copyright. If you scroll down here, you can click and join the Canvas. It will tell you exactly what you're going to be learning during that. Oh, it says it right there. Self-paced course takes about 2 to 3 hours to complete. Consists of short introductory video plus 5 learning modules. And you can take it on your own. And you even get like a certification when you're done. And then again, they're going to send you that badge, which is really neat. So that's one opportunity. The other one is that we have free infographics that you can request. They can be shipped directly to you. This is what they look like. They have 10 things you should know about copyright, free speech, copyright, and fair use. I have these above our printers here at school. just because when you make copies, sometimes you just stand there, and unless there's somebody to talk to, you kind of just look around at the walls, and you just kind of have them in different locations. You can request as many as you want. We do ask that you try requesting more than at least 30 or so, because shipping is expensive. It is completely free. Just to let you know, if you click on that link, it will take you directly to requesting free infographics. They are 11 by 17. And then there's a curriculum summary flyer that we're going to send you, which completely talks about our curriculum, which is really neat. I'm going to see if it loads in a bigger view here. Here it is. Why are we teaching copyright? The full suite of the K-12 resources. And then down here, the elementary and middle school summaries of all of our lessons, which is really cool. So if you're looking at expanding, or if you want like more training, you know, personalized training in smaller groups, you know, this would be something that you could share as well. So there that is. You do need to email the info@copywritingcreativity.org to request any of those flyers, or to request any further training. You can just mention that you were in training with me, with Wendy and I, and we can take care of that. Or just email Wendy and she can send you to me, or email me, or whatever you need to do. I will get you set up with the right people. And then I've also been adding to a Wakelet that I've been working on. Whenever I present, I just like to add, if anybody has any kind of resources that I've already been using about copyright, anything. It's not even just about teaching copyright, but anything that maybe you read a blog lately, or maybe you've read an article, or you've seen a website, or somebody's done something really great with copyright and you'd love to share, like send it to me. I want to add it to the Wakelet. I've been adding to this Wakelet. I've had some really great educators also email me, and I've been adding some of their resources to the Wakelet. So here is the Wakelet as of right now. And I mean, you might even recognize some of these names of people who've added to the Wakelet in the past. I did have my Wakelet public, but then I had some things added to it that I didn't think was like, you know, copyright. So I send it to me and I will add it. This is a Creative Commons license that I was talking about. So one thing that I do with this is, after my students are done with their projects now, I tell them, go on, and how do you want this to be used? You know, what Creative Commons license do you want? And they get to choose. And the biggest thing is that some people are like, oh yeah, like the Creative Commons license, yeah, I use that. It has a Creative Commons license. I'm like, well, did you see what Creative Commons license it had? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, did you see what Creative Commons license it had? They're like, I don't know what you mean. And so there are different Creative Commons licenses. You know, you can't just use it and just give it credit and think that that's how it's used, because you can, like this one right here, you can use the work and do whatever you like with it as long as you give attribution. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. But then there's other ones where if you add or change the work, you must share it with the same BYSA license. You can use the work as long as you don't change it in any way. So there are different ones. And there's ones where it says, if you change the work, you must share it with the same license and you can't make money from it. So you just have to be mindful of how you're using it. You can't just use an image and just give it credit and think that's it. So just kind of keep in mind that there are different licenses for Creative Commons. And that's something that I share with my students too. Like, well, how exactly do you want that work to be shared? And talking about difference between, 5 famous copyright infringement cases. That was a very interesting read, an article that somebody sent me. Renee Hobbs is another one. Joyce Valenz is another one. Here is the link that you can use for your students so they can actually choose their license. That one's another one. And then up here, if you click on the CNC Google Slide and Printable, one of my librarian friends actually took our CNC resources at the elementary level and created assessments for every single one of them at the elementary level. I know, kudos to her. She's fabulous. I absolutely adore her. And so this is what it looks like. So she took each one, and then the really neat part is, I'm super jealous, is that she has Pear Deck in her district. And so when she opens it up, so let me show you one of them. So when you open it up, so here's like elementary grade 1. She actually opens it up into a Pear Deck or Nearpod activity. And so her students can, you know, manipulate it and then send it to her through Pear Deck and Nearpod, and she has the assessment for each of these lessons for her students. So I thought that was completely fabulous, and I wanted to share that with all of you today. So that's the Wakelet. And then the last resource is about 2 years ago, there was an ebook that came out called A Digital Librarian Survival Toolkit. And it was just a bunch of librarians that created this ebook. And I was one of them that was featured in it. I did copyright and creativity, but I also did STEM projects in it as well. And so I wanted to show you the CNC. So if you click on the actual survival toolkit, it will take you, crowdsourced by librarians for librarians or educators or whoever wants to learn some cool new stuff. This is in it. Okay. This is like the cool Twitter. Okay. All in one spot. And there actually is a librarian in here who wrote about like how you can utilize Twitter better and more effectively for educators. And I know her, so just giving her a shout out. And so if you click on copyright and creativity for ethical digital citizens, all of our resources are also, this is like a screenshot of everything I shared today. So if you're like overwhelmed with everything that I shared on the Google slide, this is a screenshot. Okay, this is like a snapshot of what I shared of here. So like why teaching it, here's the video, here's the infographics, here's the curriculum broken up, laid out, here's professional development that I talked about. If you click over here, here's the webinars. These are, I didn't talk about those yet, but here's the webinars that you can check out that we've done previously. Here's the self-paced PD course, register. Here's another badge that you can earn. And then there's my name. And then if you click over, if you're interested in the STEM activities that I posted, those are all like the cool STEM activities that I did with my students. But that had nothing to do with today's presentation. You can just check that out in your own time. And then the last but not least, okay, the one really, really cool part that I love about copyright and creativity, okay, is that we have office hours. Okay, one thing that we really, really have that I feel like no other, resource out there, maybe not, I don't know. I've been doing this for 12 years now, but we have office hours. So every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this link that will take you to office hours. So it's under resources, and you can even click office hours and webinars. But if you scroll down here, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have office hours. So if you have questions about the resources, or you have comments, or you have a question about, is this fair use? Is this not fair use? Is it, well, I'm trying to do this project with my students, or I don't know, you just feel like you want to talk about something that has to do with copyright. Join us. There is always an ambassador on the call, and we're on Zoom, and we sit there for a half hour, and people jump on and they ask questions and they leave, or we brainstorm, we go through the factors of fair use, or sometimes people jump on and say, I'm interested in doing personalized training. Do you guys do something like this? And we just talk. We're just there to talk. And it's completely free. We're not going to charge you. We just ask for smiles and for grace and for kindness because it's usually after we've been working all day long. So as long as you're kind, you can come and join us for office hours again, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And, if you want to follow Copyright and Creativity directly on Twitter, it's there. There's my contact information again. This is it. I am all done. So I cannot thank you enough for having me. I hope you learned something new today. I see the chat was kind of going, but I did not get to look at any of them. So I'm going to kind of just click on the chat. We love free. Yes, me too. Yes, we do. Yay. Woohoo. Yes, early elementary resources are the best. I know there's like, I feel like every time I go to a conference, everyone talks about secondary resources being free, and I'm like, or they talk about something really great and there's like never anything for elementary, like kindergarten. I'm like, okay, try again later. Yes, awesome. I cannot. Awesome. Yes, awesome. Yay, good. There was no questions. It was all just kudos. Great. I love that.
Jen, Thank you so much. This was absolutely awesome. And I think you were just getting shout outs and love through the chat. So, but this is the time, if you do have any questions while we have Jen on here, please. I'm a little bit overwhelmed just by how great and wonderful and how clean and the layout of everything. I think as educators, everyone's a little bit just taken back by, it's laid out perfectly. You could go in and use this tomorrow in your classroom. So that's what we love about it, I think. How many people had ever heard of copyright and creativity prior to today? I'm just kind of curious. No. No. Okay, good. So yay. All right, good. So it's a new resource. So my challenge, okay, Donna, you had heard of it. So my challenge to each of you is, if you are, I know our library media specialist, you're going to love it. If you are not the library media specialist in your building, I wholeheartedly encourage you to go and put this in their hand, give them this resource. I was getting some messages that say, I know, Donna, you are the library media, so you probably did get that in your district. But go and put this in their hand, share this resource, go ahead and email them and make sure they know about this. And then I love in the chat, I can't remember who said, thinking about units, and as you're doing investigative units and history discovery units, absolutely, this is great. So super exciting. I am going to drop the session evaluation in the chat for us now. And again, if you have questions, I will send out a follow-up. I do have one really exciting thing, though, that was kind of our back channel discovery. When Jen rolled out, there is the copyright and ethics badge. I know you all love badging. So on the invoice, on Hero invoice number 2, you will see, as of right now, just a few moments ago, I linked the professional development steps. So it's a hyperlink now on our invoice. You can earn $75 if you obtain this badge as well. So that's a little incentive to get the badge and finish that certification as well. So lots of opportunities for you. So I'm excited to see who kind of pursues that one as well. Jen, thank you so very much. We'll be on for a few minutes if you have questions. So you've got the chat, or in the chat is the session evaluation, and on the invoice, I have linked the